Host Eric. I'm here with various famous people in the room, and a very special guest, Chad Crandall of MBTV, is here as well. And he mentioned a really great topic, which is projection, which I do want to get to, but I want to sort of allow that conversation that was happening right there when I came back in to proceed and find out what his experience is who he gets, and why he's stealing all my ISFJ women. Chad?
Well, the truth is, I haven't come across very many ISFJs, and naturally, the most attracted type to MBTI and typology is NFs. Out of all types, NFs are the most abundant. And it's gotten to the point where, again, I don't select people's type. I have an idea, like my own guess. I like to play guess and check, but I never actually force a type on them. If I wind up being wrong, I'm like, okay, I'm wrong, but I'm doing all this in my head. You know, now as I'm watching this process unfold, I naturally go, okay, this person is probably an NF, but I try not to bias or slant anything, and I let the person talk. And it's about how much you can actually shut up, which is a big part of the process, and actually listen to what the person's saying. And so, no, I find that it's about 80% NFs that I type, and it's not so much SFs or STs. It's primarily NFs. There's very few SFs or STs in the typology community in comparison to your level of NFs, and there's NTs here and there, but primarily it's going to be your NFs. Now, granted, most STs and SFs get into typology because they have an NT or NF friend.
Really?
And
that's interesting.
That is, yeah, it's not because they found it on their own or they were curious. Now, there are the people who do embrace that, of course, and there are exceptions, but most of the time it's because they have an NT or NF friend who's like, oh, check out this, look at this typology, take this instrument real quick, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's really me, that freaks me out, let me look more into that. I think JC is a SF, so she probably has a different experience. You know, she probably looked into it herself, and again, as an ESFP, I believe she is. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's
you know, granted that the intuition is going to be at the inferior portion. Now, this is interesting, is because in Jungian typology, you know, your fourth function is considered your soul or anima function, and there's a connection to that intuition. So you're going to find a lot of people, ESTPs and ESFPs, who are actually really interested in typology, whereas you're not going to have so much of the ISFPs as much, and that's natural because again they're not connected like that. Like for an example, an INTJ has a specific focus and a specific love or appreciation rather for art and visual aesthetic appreciation. And Hami, you can give me any perspective on this as an INTJ. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But there's usually some kind of connection to sensory data, and it's not like, you know, they love it, but at the same time, I guess they can identify it. And Hami also said, do you think NTs are better at typing themselves? And I would say yes, specifically NTJs, more so than even NTPs. NTJs want to reach conclusion faster. NTPs usually tend to gather more data and kind of explore the field of typology more so than NJs in general, who are just like, yep, that's me, okay, I'm done with it. And if they get proven wrong later, they come across new information, you know, they may change their mind, but ultimately that J personality kind of takes over.
I think NTPs go back and forth between E and I, a lot of them, but the hardcore ones, like I as soon as I saw ENTP, I never looked back. I was like, oh, that's me. But you know, I think that's indicative of somebody who's been well cared for his whole life in a lot of regards. You know, I think that's when you manifest the most obviously ENTP qualities. That the more introverted ENTPs are the ones who are a little bit more beat up by life, perhaps. Just a hypothesis.
And I think that's also true with NTJs. The ENTJ, INTJ type is problematic in the community as well. I find that a lot of NTJs are ex-NTJs. They have no clue what they are, E or I. And they know they're an NTJ, they just don't know if they're E or I, because TE being such an impersonal function, and I'm imagining this is probably true for NTPs as well. TI, obviously, totally impersonal, and you have this, am I really extroverted or not? Because again, we have these nuances of what extroversion is. It's when I talk to a lot of people, you know, and both ENFPs and ENTPs, out of my experience personally, tend to be pretty ambiverted. They have times where they need to go isolate, and then they have times where they can just talk all day. And so naturally, they kind of vacillate between E and I. And it's the same for NTJs, but not in the sense of the social sense. And for NTJs, it's more of Do I prefer TE or do I really prefer NI? Which one do I prefer over? And that's where for the NTJs, it's challenging. And a lot of ENTJs I've met and known talk about their youth, and they were mostly introverted in their youth.
So where should I go to meet SFJ women, Chad Crandall?
SFJ women. Okay, so SFJ women, I believe, or SFJs in general, are around 11% of the population.
Okay, that bodes well.
So they should be, around. Now, the question is, where do they hang out? Well, they're probably not going to hang out in a lot of theoretical environments. So they're probably not going to hang around in a lot of theory. They're probably going to be more grounded in fact. I think Hami has a good point. You can meet them in a book club.
Okay, that's good concrete advice. I might be joining the book club soon. It'll be like a bunch of old ladies and me. Hey, ladies.
And I mean that's pretty good advice, Hami. I think if you also, we can look at where SI really comes from and FE comes from. You might find them doing a lot of volunteer work too. So Eric, if you really like volunteering, you might find a lot. I know I'm giving you. You might find a lot of ISFJs in the volunteer area.
Oh, wow, maybe I'll start liking volunteering. That's possible. That's a good topic. Join the Peace Corps.
The truth is, most SFJs are married.
Right.
Yeah. And they have their kid.
I gotta find divorcees.
The most SFJs are long been married because their fathers' and fathers told them to be married at an early age. So
yeah. Wow.
And that archetype is passed down through the many generations of SFJ hierarchy.
Right. And it's not like they're gonna leave that relationship easy, It's gonna be a battle breaking that relationship up. When they finally come out of it, they're gonna be kind of wounded, probably. So
I'd imagine so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any other thoughts? Anybody else have any additional questions for Chad and his experience on typing people and the typology community and such, as he's got experience executing these protocols? Any other questions we'd like to ask him? Now, JC, when you were talking about a good topic, do you mean places to go meet different types? Is that what you meant by a good topic?
Yeah.
Where to find your duel?
The topic, where to find your duel.
Oh, where to find your duel. All right, cool. Well, I guess that brings this episode to a close. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you to Chad for answering our questions. And again, please remember to eat plenty of cheese.